This video and others like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. Please show your support with a like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any new videos. If you want to get involved with the channel, consider becoming a channel member. There are many benefits to channel membership, including access to our Discord, exclusive deck tech and strategy videos, and the opportunity to help create channel content. I want to sincerely thank all our channel members, as I truly couldn't do this without your support. You guys rock. Go Commando.
Hello, Star Wars Legion folks. So this is it. I said I was going to talk about it, and I wanted to pump the brakes on it a little bit, and I did. I mean, this news. This is not news. It's 10 days old or whatever, but things don't exactly move fast in the Legion world, so it's okay, right? So tonight specifically, tonight what we're talking about specifically is the future of Legion, my take on it, my opinions, my forecasts, and so forth, and kind of all that, right? And what this was, for those of you who are catching up, what this was really, the impetus for this, the catalyst for this, was the departure of the announcement by Luke Eddy that he was no longer with AMG, no longer with Asmodee, because let's be honest, that's really it, right? So he's no longer doing the Star Wars Minis games. He's no longer with the company, which means that at a very very basic level, that means that we don't know the exact details, but very very few people who were originally associated with the product lines are. And I think it's completely reasonable for the community to have had the reaction that they did on every single level. You always have the FFG, AMG, Asmodee fanboys. You're always going to have those, the defenders. You're always going to have the sky is falling people. And I mean, I'll be honest, going through the end of Star Wars Destiny, I understand, right? There's a lot of parallels that can be drawn to the end of Destiny and where Legion is at and all that. I don't think that having those opinions on either side are completely unreasonable. So tonight, what I'm going to do is, I wanted to share my thoughts and opinions. Now, you guys, for those who have watched the channel for years, you know that I try at least to take a very practical approach and not an emotional approach, which sometimes cannot be what people want to hear about things. Now, let's just TLDR this, right? Do I think the game's going away? No, I don't. I think that there's more restructuring going on, because I think that FFG I was very clear about that. I'll put up the thumbnail now. I said, in November when the transition happened, I was like, well, no Asmodee is taken away from FFG because they've basically failed, not from a game design standpoint, but from a product line standpoint. I think that FFG did a bad job. And I'm just saying emotionally, and emotionally, there's a lot of people going, oh my God, no. What are you talking about? Legion's the best game ever. And I agree. I love Legion. Well, I don't know if it's best game ever, but I love Legion. I think it's a great game, but there's a lot of things that FFG could have done better. Let's be honest, right? Come on. And especially if you are someone who is able to put yourself in the company's position. Right, so anyway, this is going on way too long for an intro, but that's how tonight's going to go, folks, right? And that's kind of the point. So I've got a beer. We're going to sit down. I've got some notes. We're going to go through the chat. We're going to talk about kind of my position on what I think's happening, where I think we're going to go, and so on. So go relax, grab something, sit down, and let's have the chat. All right, guys, so thanks for tuning in. So astute people may have noticed that my beer that I was touting is actually only half full. It's because it actually takes time to get stuff set up and then, do 2 failed takes, and then here we are. So on the intro, we're doing the rest of this just from notes. So, before we get into this, you always have to do the disclaimer. And it's not really a disclaimer. It's just kind of a general statement of, there's always, when you have these type of conversations, emotion is it's not more important, but emotion reigns. And what I'm trying to do overall in this is take a practical approach of why certain things might be happening. And in that, the end goal of that is pointing out the practical business reasons why things might be happening or tactical reasons why things might be happening. And in saying that, it means that it's not necessarily the end of the game, right? Because, as I mentioned in the intro, the TLDR, the, too long didn't watch version of this is I don't think the game's going away. I think the game's a huge success for them, and I think they want it to be more successful. So, and then just to hit on two more points, right? When we're going through this, there's always going to be the first, one of the first complaints that comes to people's mind is, well, we need to protect the game. It needs to be play tested. It needs to be, the game integrity matters. And of course it does. Like, nobody wants broken units to hit the game. Like, nobody wants that. But, I mean, there's no real but. Like, that's just the way, no one disagrees with that. But, here's the but. But overall, it is possible for more stuff to come out without breaking the game. Right? Or maybe some flexibility on that in either direction. But I completely understand and respect the need to protect the game. I get it. But oftentimes that conflicts with sales. And if we're trying to figure out what's going on and what the future might look like, I think that's a perfectly reasonable debate to have is, protecting the game versus the product line. Because they are, while they're the same thing, they're also not. Right? And then the other, it's always very hard to have this conversation about what specifically is wrong with the product line, right? I won't say the game, because somebody always, every time we have this conversation in a Discord or something else, someone's always like, well, I like the current release schedule because it's more manageable for me financially. Well, of course it freaking is. Like, I like it too. Like, especially even throw money out the door, right? Even from a painting schedule, like, it's way easier for me to pick up the units that I want on a slower schedule and get them painted, right? And then, of course, there's the money aspect of that. So, like, dude, I agree. 100%. I appreciate a slower, like, something getting delayed a month. That's one more month that I don't have to buy something. But now put yourself in the company perspective. That's something the company doesn't want. Like, their job's to make money, right? So that is, if me saying that is setting you off, you probably just want to, go watch another video. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just being practical here, right? I mean, we're trying to figure out what's going on, what the future looks like, and part of that involves having hard conversations and sitting and deflecting everything and saying, well, I like slower release because it's easier for me to buy stuff. Completely fair. I agree. But completely not relevant to why a company might be making a decision, right? I mean, I'm just being honest with you here, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. So, all right, now I don't want to speak specifically to Luke anything. I don't know the man. I don't know any of those people. It sucks that let me just say this. It sucks. Like, I can't imagine. Even aside from the whole job thing, like, there's a lot of jobs out there and all that. Like, I don't know from a game design standpoint, but like, I don't ever want to see anybody lose their job. I don't want to ever see anybody or anybody's family get put in a tough spot. I mean, with all that said, the thing that I really find more impactful to someone who's likely going to land on their feet, because most of these other guys end up doing, right? They're like, there's no debate there that like the guy's hireable, right? Like, he's got a good resume, it'll be fine. I mean, hopefully, in all likelihood, he will be fine, right? The thing that sucks most about it isn't just the job and financial situation. It's that this, decade plus of this person's professional career is now over, right? I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's a huge blow. Like, I can't imagine tomorrow if I were to just suddenly lose everything that I'd been working on for the last 15 years of my life at my job. I mean, that's hard, right? So, and again, I'm not dismissing the financial thing. That please don't take it that way. I'm just saying I really sympathize for anybody who's been put in the position that they're in. Now, in terms of the actual details of it, again, I don't know. We do know. I heard through the grapevine that individual was still actually in Minnesota. And we know that, back in the day that we know that everyone was being asked to move to Washington. So like, I'm sure that individual was allowed to stay during the pandemic. And like, we don't all that was said was it wasn't my decision to leave. Like, we don't know whether they were being fired or whether it was said you have to move here or you have to leave. And that person just said, I don't want to move, so I'm going to leave. So we don't know all the full details. Without knowing the full details, we can't get into the nitty gritty, which is why I'm completely moving past that, right? What I wanted to talk about tonight fully in Prime is why, how do I say this? There are a lot of things that from a pure, like if you're Asmodee, right? If you're a CEO who knows jack about the game, and doesn't, quite frankly, care about how the game plays. It's not that they don't care about the game playing. Like, they obviously don't want the game to go to hell because then nobody's going to buy it, right? So they want the people who are doing good things to continue to do good things, but they want them to do it faster, want them to do it more efficient. And one of the things from Star Wars Legion where they are consistently, not failing. Failing is a strong word, especially in today's society, right? But why is, let me throw this out there. Mandalorian has been one of the biggest Star Wars properties in the last, 10 years or more. And we don't have Mando stuff yet. And like, why? Well, we have to predict the game. We have to play test. And if you're like, I say BS and I don't even have a financial stake in it, right? Like, if you're someone who has a financial stake, it's like, we have this property, you're not taking advantage of it. So it's completely reasonable to me that Asmodee as a company would want faster rates of release, right? And that's again why I addressed the whole thing earlier was, well, I like the rate of release where it is. Like, well, fair enough, but if you're the company, like, you want to take more advantage of it. And I had from Legion Academy, I had both those guys on. We had a little bit of conversation about it, and they're like, yeah, well, you can't do quite the same aggressive release schedule as Protocol, Kryze Protocol, and I'm not saying we should have monthly releases. That's not what I want at all, right? But one of the things they said was like, well, but you have people buying 3 boxes. It's like, well, but you don't have to release a core unit every quarter, right? Yeah, like you could, the core units we have are fine, but like, where are the operatives? Where are the like operatives, commanders, and stuff like that? Those are actually in the grand scheme of things, the operatives and commanders are actually a relatively small piece that are relatively easy to control, right? Especially if, look at the named commanders. Let's take, I don't know, just off the top of the cuff, like let's look at Commander Cody, right? Like when we could release let's say we're AMG, right? Let's do that. We could release a Commander Cody that is basically the clone commander and has like one different command card or something, right? And the people, like the hardcore gamers will look at it and be like, well, this isn't really different. But still, like, thousands of people are going to buy that model because it's Commander Cody and it's a slightly different sculpt, right? And so, like, you can make very minor game tweaks. Maybe he has some different command card that does something slightly different. And again, I'm not saying, like, this is the holy grail, right? But hopefully you understand my point of, like, FFG, and I know that we're on AMG, but it's the same philosophy, right? Which is why I'm saying that, like, they might want to just kind of purge the ship, right? There seems to be, and we saw it in Kallus and Lando, and like everything that comes out seems to have a new thing, right? Every time it feels like FFG tries to swing for the fence with every release that they do or every new thing they implement. They try to like have some new mechanic or something else, and like of course you have to play test that, but like look at all of the characters that we could release, like all of the named characters that people want. They could just be releasing those and basically make them vanilla cookie cutter stuff. And like, again, this is a game where not everybody buys everything. But the people who like really want Ahsoka, like why the hell do we not have an Ahsoka? Right? Like it wouldn't have been that hard to like basically cookie cutter her onto somebody else, but instead of having one saber, give her an arsenal with 2 sabers or something like that. Like, would that have really broken the game? I mean, maybe there's something I'm missing I don't understand. And, the other part of this that I forgot to mention is, I do realize there's Disney parts to all of this, right? But this overarching historical, and this is not just a Legion statement, right? This statement has basis in seeing FFG theory. And FFG theory, I know AMG owns it, but FFG theory is important because a lot of these guys are carryovers for the same philosophy. So, right, it makes sense that if they're not happy with the way things are, or if people are resistant to change, that they just might want to purge the line, right? And I mean, that's basically where my head is like, do I think that they're going to kill Legion? No, I don't. I think they're trying to take more advantage of the Legion property. I mean, our release rate in Star Wars Legion is slow. And there are, I mean, this is probably not a completely accurate statement, but there are more I'm going to say it anyway. There are more characters being added in the Star Wars universe. Let's just write it this way. Characters are being added to the Star Wars universe at a faster rate than they are being produced in Star Wars Legion, right? Right, we're adding, I mean, we just added Bad Batch, and we've got, we still have Phoenix and Rebels, and all, aside from Kallus, Rebels isn't really touched. And, like, if characters are being pumped out in concept at a faster rate than they're actually being added to the game can never, ever, ever catch up. And I'm not saying that, like, that should be the eventual goal, but the universe, and by the universe, I don't mean the Star Wars universe, the world, the Legion world is hungry, starving for more stuff, not just from a game perspective, but because there's the modeling side of this too. Like, I am on the Star Wars Legion painting Facebook group, and I think it's safe to say, in fact, I probably should have done that stat coming in here, but I think it's safe to say that 60%, if not, I think it's greater than that. I would wager it's about 75%. 75% of the pictures on that are actually custom made, custom 3D prints, right? Somebody made it, and either they printed themselves or had somebody do it, right? The world wants these characters. So, like, oh, I want this guy, I want this guy. Well, they exist, right? There are third-party people who are making, Star-Lord Leia, or whatever the heck the name would be, so they don't get sued, right? But there are people who are pumping out models at a faster rate so that people can paint them. And yes, they're not game. They don't need tested, right? It's easy. I can't imagine it is, but it's easy to make a sculpt, 3D print it, sell the STL, whatever. I get that. It's not a game piece. But you have to be Asmodee and looking at that and be like, how many people are buying models of characters that they just want to buy that aren't out there yet? Like, if you're Asmodee, you can't be ignoring that. Like, you have to look at that and be like, man, like, Fennec Shan is, because there's a Fennec Shan. I'll see if I can go find it and put it in editing, right? Like, there's a Fennec Shan model out there that looks freaking awesome that, like, some dude you're not even paying on his own time went through and did and threw the STL up on the hopes that maybe he could make $100 or more, whatever. But, like, how are these random dudes on a Friday night doing what it takes somebody at AMG 3/4 to do? You know what I mean? Like, and again, I as a player get it. But if you're looking at someone, you're like, why are we losing out on this? We have people who are out there paying, Gucci Gaming or whomever it is, Darkfire Designs, Skullforge Miniatures. Like, we have people who are paying these people real money that could be going to us, because you can't tell me that somebody wouldn't prefer to buy an official Star Wars Legion mini, right? I mean, if I could go buy a Jango Fett tomorrow that was a Star Wars Legion mini, I'd do it versus going to Darkfire Designs or whatever it may be, right? I mean, you can't argue with that. And they for whatever, I mean, and again, there are product line issues, there's shipping issues, there's logistics issues. I'm not ignoring that at all. And yeah, you have to test all this stuff, but it's a very hard argument to, and that is likely, right? So here's where I'm going. Let me bring it home, right? That is likely kind of the holdout thing of like, hey, Luke, let's take the personality out of it, right? Andrew, you're the lead designer for Star Wars Legion. We need you to accelerate the release schedule. Well, I can't because, it takes time to do all this testing. And they're like, well, I don't think you understand. Like, we need you to accelerate the release schedule. It's like, well, I can't because I'm developing this new mechanic for Mando that's coming out in, 18 months or whatever. We're doing sub-factions and all this stuff. And they're like, well, why are you doing sub-factions when we don't even have, like, all of the core characters yet? And, like, like, should we be looking at like the Kashyyyk wave's awesome, but like, let's be honest, like it's kind of an aside. Like it's not really, they could be doing First Order. They could be doing, I don't really want to go there because like that's a whole nother thing. But like, hopefully you understand what I'm saying of like, there's literally a whole Star Wars universe that is completely untouched, or there's a large portion of the Star Wars universe that's completely untouched. And without an accelerated release schedule, there's no way that they're ever going to get there. And especially at the rate that Disney's doing things, there's no way they're going to catch up, right? I mean, the Mando, I get hung up on Ahsoka all the time because it still blows my mind she didn't come out with Anakin. And okay, Disney said no, probably because they were trying to get old Ahsoka for the Mando property. Well, little did Disney know that it was going to take 2.5 years to get Mando out. Like, I mean, I'm not. Hopefully, I'm not coming across frustrated. I'm just trying to put myself in the corporation's shoes of we have this property that we're paying for, and it's really not being maximized on. So, if we moved over, and let's be clear, it's been less than a year since I moved over to AMG and those restructuring and all that loss and all that stuff. So I'm not. Again, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying anybody failed, but there's definitely a philosophy approach that needs to change in Star Wars Legion from a corporate standpoint, right? I mean, I'm just saying if you're the CEO looking at the bottom line, I mean, let's be honest. Let's back up and even take that out, right? We as the players, by and large, as evidenced by my whole thing about who's, even just people who don't play, buying miniatures, just painting them up. Heck, I've bought Ahsoka, Ayla, and Mace and Bo-Katan just because I wanted to paint them up, right? I would have bought, like, if they were Star Wars Legion men, like, I wouldn't have gone to a third party, right? Like, where's my Jango Fett? Like, and again, even we as players are like, man, like, there's a lot of characters I'd like to see. Like, man, Yoda's coming out. We've known Yoda's coming out basically since the beginning of 2021, if not a little before that. And, like, he's still not here. And so, and sure, again, and I hope this is not being all, I hope that not 100% of this is, again, remember the catalyst of this was an individual losing their job. I'm not saying this individual is the reason that logistics of the pandemic aren't working. If you're making that jump, then you're not, then I'm not doing a good job communicating to you, right? Because that's not what I'm trying to say. But what I am trying to say is there's a philosophy problem in Star Wars Legion from a maximization of the license point of view, right? Take the greed out of it, take the logistics out of it, take all of that out of it. They are not maximizing their license as they are comparatively to my Marvel Crisis Protocol. Now, again, they are completely different games. I'm not asking for Star Wars Legion to be Marvel Protocol, and I don't even think the CEOs would. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know. But like, I think from a practical standpoint, that's not what somebody would want, right? Because they're different games. So expecting one to release the same schedule, I think, is completely unreasonable. However, taking the same type of approach in that, maybe everything doesn't need to be a slam dunk, home run, long field kick, whatever, floats your boat based on your sports metaphor of country of choice. There's a lot of room. There's a lot of room to run in Legion, and I don't think they're running with it, at least at the rate that they should be, or could be. Not maybe that should be is bad because that's subjective, right? They're not taking advantage of it to the level that they could be. And if you are a corporation, you want that could be to be as high as possible. So, with all that said, we've been here for 26 minutes, and I've not really done much work here. Do I think, and sure I'm biased, but do I think the Legion's going away? No. Do I think Legion 2.0 is possible? I absolutely do. I think Skirmish is well underplayed. And in fact, wargamers, let's be honest, right? For those in the wargaming community, can be collectively, individually or great people can collectively be a bit of bullies, right? There is definitely a shunning of people who like. That's how I feel personally. It is there's definitely a shunning of people who like to play skirmish, right? And there's problems with skirmish because it doesn't fit quite in. I mean, I think skirmish needs its own thing, 100%. I think it needs to be its own thing. Maybe lend by its own thing. I mean, like maybe its own rules set or point. Maybe not rule set, but I don't mean rule set. But maybe it needs its own like points balance and stuff. Because it's really hard in skirmish to play like a Grievous who's 2/5 of your points, right? Like you basically skew to the smaller commanders and all that. And maybe that's a topic for a different cast. In fact, probably is. But those are the type of things that like, you know, they could use skirmish alone to pump out more commanders and operatives, right? They totally could. And, you know, because the future of them pumping out more units doesn't lie in different variants of stormtroopers, right? It lies in getting Ahsoka out. It lies in getting Saw Gerrera out. I don't know, just, right? Coming off, like, where are right behind me, where are Baze and Chirrut? Like, why? Right? They could be a, you know, Guardian unit like R2-C3PO. Like, it'd be so easy to do. They wouldn't have to develop new mechanics for it. You know, they can have Guardian and, I mean, freaking carbon copy the IG-100 Magna Guards that are coming out and call it a day. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's even from my standpoint. Now, if you're someone who's like, man, I actually, like, my bonus is tied to you doing this and you're not doing it, like, come on. So, there's a lot of places that Legion could run. And there are so many places Legion could run. So much upside for Legion that I don't think it's going away, but I think they're having a new thought process on how to do it. And if there was a resistance to that in any way, I don't think that there's any question from a pure corporate standpoint why what happened could have happened, right? I mean, again, I don't know what happened. But yeah, so much room for the game to run. I can't see it going away. It just makes sense that they'd want to change it. And if there's any resistance to that, I can understand from a corporate standpoint, you know, wanting to change or wanting. I mean, maybe it's not even a resistance. Like maybe they just want to pivot and do something different, right? Maybe it's a 2.0. Maybe it's a restructuring. Fine. I mean, at the end of the day, as long as the models that we've bought are still usable, you know, and not only that we bought, but we've bought and we've put our heart and soul into painting. As long as those models are still playable from an official game standpoint, I think everything's okay, right? So I think there's a lot of unfortunate things that happen this week. So in conclusion, I think there's a lot of unfortunate things that happen this week, especially to specific individuals. You know, it's not a good thing overall, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, right? And what I want to point out, you know, as someone who's gone through multiple games that have been killed in the past, right? There's this weird inflection point that happens where communication is good until a certain point when you're told what you don't want to hear. And in Star Wars Legion right now, they're not telling us anything. They're just telling us that there's more product coming. And I think that's a good thing, right? I mean, it's one of those things like you want communication until you're told what you don't want to hear. So for right now, what we're being told is that there's a future for the game, and we want more info, which I think is fair, which I think is completely fair. But sometimes it's one of those like you don't want to ask the question you don't want to hear the answer to type of things, right? So, you know, and I guess that's I think I've been overall pretty positive in terms of the health and the future of the game, and I guess that was a somewhat negative statement in that, you know, we don't want to hear what we don't want to hear. But I guess I don't know how to finish that, right? I mean, we have a future for the time being. And if what we do is we go out and we boycott and stop buying things, that's not going to feed. I mean, I want to be very clear. I am not a fanboy at all. Like I think that, you know, FFG was one of the worst companies I've ever seen on basically every level. And AMG let them get away, or excuse me, Asmodee let them get away with it. And then they said, hey, let's, you know, do a new plan, move over to AMG. Nothing's really changed with AMG. Like we still don't have a website up. Like, the rules are still on FFG's site, as well as most of the product stuff. And like, I get that there's transition, but like, it's been almost a year. Like, you can make a freaking website, right? And so, I mean, there's clearly structural problems everywhere. So I am not in any way, there's a lot of people that are like, well, don't say bad stuff because then they'll do it. I am not an AMG fanboy. I'm not an FFG fanboy at all. I think they're awful companies, and I think they don't care about you as gamers, right? And that's why I think we need to be practical about it and do what we've done tonight, which is sit and say like, all right, if I'm a corporate stooge, what's my call going to be? And right now, I think the call straight up is Legion's still a good game. Legion still has a lot of room to run. We can make a lot of money out of it. We just want to change things to make more out of it. I think that's the answer. So anyway, hopefully that makes sense. I got to sit here and talk about it. I got to have at least 5 sips of beer, and hopefully you did as well. So again, I really want to know what you guys are thinking, especially if you have info that I don't have, which is likely many of you. Share it. Let's figure it out, and let's be kind of a support group for each other. I really look forward to having those interactions and learning more from you guys. I really do. I just learned some stuff tonight about how my clone medic doesn't work. But I love the game. I've loved the people I've interacted with so far at virtually, in person, and I don't want this game to go away, right? So I think I think it's not. And I think that the changes that happened this week, while unfortunate for many on a personal level, I don't think are the end of the world. But we will have to see over time. So anyway, thanks folks for joining me, for listening tonight. Again, let me know what you're thinking in the comments. And again, I really encourage you, I'll back up and I'll mention the first 2 things, right? I really encourage you to take the emotion out of it, right? Protect the game 100%. I don't want the game to go to crap. But I'm trying to understand, but I think there are things they could do to increase the release schedule without sacrificing the game. And 2, while I really like the release schedule as it is, I respect your opinion and I agree. I don't want to spend, 10x what I'm spending of my real money that can eventually, send my kid to school. Like, I don't want to spend that. But again, if, there's reasons decisions are being made, and like, the corporate CEO's job is not to protect your pocketbook. In fact, it's kind of the opposite, right? So again, just trying to be practical of the situation and look at it as is. So anyway, I'll finish up tonight. I want to thank you guys for joining. I hope you guys also, sat down, relaxed, and were just casual about it. And, again, thank you, and go Commando. Thank you.